Hello, friends. Once again, we had established in the previous episodes that we are a fusion of two civilizations, the modern and the Indic. We looked at the longevity of the two, found one that's barely 700 years old, the other one 17,000 years. So, obviously, we felt there was some need to examine other things. We then examined the principles of law between the two civilizations. We examined the principles of economics between the two civilizations. We then also examined the principles of maths and science between the two civilizations. Of course, we've done very, very cursory examinations um, because we just want to touch upon a few things and then get into detail later, much if it interests us. So, today we're going to look at another very important aspect, and that is language. So if we look at the modern languages and if we look at the Indic language has been Sanskrit. Once again, we see a marked difference. Sanskrit is probably the mother of 130 to 160 languages. Sanskrit has been termed to be the most closest machine language, best for artificial intelligence. Sanskrit does not have anomalies within it, so it is able to express itself pretty well. The Ashtadhyaya of Panini is considered like one of the greatest inventions of mankind. So all these things are there. But what is the fundamental difference between Sanskrit and other languages? You see, in all other languages, what happens is you learn the language, and then you learn the names of all the items and objects in the universe. So you know that this is called a hand, you know that that's called a cat, you know that that's called a dog, this is called a man, and whatever, you learn it by names. But then that is not so in Sanskrit. In Sanskrit, it gives importance to the sounds, and every sound is associated with an emotion. And hence, what the emotion expresses, you describe the properties of that object through the name. So, for example, if you look at like Dr. Sampadan and the Mishra, like he tells us, that if you looked at water has got pani, paniyam, jalam, and these kind of names. So you got different names. Each one means something else. One means to flow, one means one that freezes, and like that. So in Sanskrit you might have 28 different names for water, and each of them describes what it is. So anybody who's learned Sanskrit will automatically know at least 28 features or 28 properties of water. But in English you'll have to learn it as water. This is called water, and that's it. If we had to ask, if you were confronted with students groups from two sides, one, those are English educated, and you ask them the properties of water. If he's a science student, he might be able to tell you five or seven properties. If he's a purely English student, he might not even be able to tell you more than two or three properties of water, only from his own experience. But a Sanskrit student will be able to easily tell you 25 to 28 properties of water. Now imagine if that was true of every object in the universe. Imagine the amount of erudition this Sanskrit scholar has compared to a modern language scholar. Kapil Mishra ji explains, like for in English, you just have the word intellect, and for us, intellect means something abstract, something thinking here. But then when you discuss about intellect in Sanskrit, it breaks it down into a few components. First one being our senses, like our indriya, as we call it in Hindi. Now, senses is the means through which we are able to taste, touch, smell, feel, see. So there is that experience of that, that whole act of doing that. So you need that to be able to absorb those things. Then next what you have is the mind, because unless your mind has registered it, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, you could be driving in your car and not notice what's happening, but yet you're seeing. So you see and you notice. For that, you need the mind, which then processes it and says, okay, registered. It's a object or it's a song. And then you need buddhi inside your mind, which is then the one, the one that analyzes that is that something good, bad, or whatever it is it an object, or is it a song, is it music, the whole thing. That analysis is what the buddhi does. And then there is something called your chitta, means the person inside you. There is a being inside you, to which that same song can either be pleasing, or it can be disturbing, or an object can be enjoyable, or it may not be enjoyable because of past experiences or because of pre-notions or whatever it is. And that can be different for different people. So that is the conscious within you that registers these. So all these four combined is what then becomes your intellect. So you see the beauty of Sanskrit, how it comes across differently. And that is a gift of the Indic civilization. And yet in the modern side, we have what you see in the other languages and how they are. So, and the ease of learning, the understanding, being able to express because language is at the core of human progress, you must understand that. And now when you look at the differences in these two languages, you realize, oh my goodness, what a huge wealth that I have, that I'm not utilizing and discarding. And whilst here I am having adopted something else and carrying on in that, unmindful of all the losses that I'm making, or the slow that my progress has become. So now, friends, when we have examined the two civilizations in terms of longevity, we found the modern did not last more than 700 years, whether it is the modern one or the Roman on which it is based, or the Greek that the Romans were inspired on. None of them beyond 700 years. The Indic, 17,000 years and still carrying on. Then we looked at the legal principles. We said the law, modern law says the state can do no wrong, whilst the Indic law says the king is a servant of the people. Then we examined economic principles, where we said competition is everything, whilst the Indic thing says compete with yourself. Then we looked at maths and science and how it is, and we realized that this is so much theoretical, while that is empirical. And there's so much progress that could have been made and it could have been lost. And then we examined language, which is at the crux of humankind, and we found that even in the language there's such a massive difference. Now you say, my goodness, if that is the value of Indic civilization, what am I doing? Not examining as to what else does it contain, what is it really as antique, did it really start 17,000 years ago, or 25,000 years ago, or 3,500 years ago, or what is it about that civilization that I can study more and understand. Why? Because it's for my identity, and also to ensure that there is a lesson that I can take for the sustenance of humankind and for the future of this human civilization. Thank you very much for listening to me, friends. We'll continue talking. Thanks. Bye bye.